Hello my friends, welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about keeping your promises and responsibilities. And the reason I want to talk about this is because quite recently I had a situation. Someone made an appointment with me and it was supposed to be in a couple of days, and about 20 minutes before the session was about to start, the person messages me and tells me that they can make it because they're out of town, and they will call me again to reschedule. So I reply, okay, that's fine. And the next week the person calls me again and wants to reschedule. And I tell them that it's not possible anymore. And he becomes extremely irritated by the fact that I wouldn't understand that he had a problem and that he couldn't help it. And actually that made me think about things. But first of all, let me tell you what it didn't make me think about. So maybe you say that by doing this and by aggressively selecting my clients, I'm at the risk of I run the risk of running out of patience and not having anyone to work with because I'm too demanding and too strict and generally not flexible enough. And if that's the case, I'm fine with it. I'll probably, if that happens, I'll probably end up sweeping the streets of Bucharest, because I live in Bucharest at the moment. And when I think about growing up, sweeping the streets was the worst thing that could have happened to you if you were a boy. If you were a girl, the worst thing that could have happened to you was to become a prostitute. And we have an expression here that's something along the lines of doing the pavement, which means basically hooking. So if you were a girl and you didn't study hard, you were at risk of ending up doing the pavement. And if you were a boy, you were at risk of cleaning the pavement. So yeah, Romanians are pretty much obsessed with pavements and sidewalks and so on. But aside from that, I may be somewhat rigid on this matter, but let me tell you where I'm coming from. And the reason I want to make this video is because I started thinking about why did this guy get so upset because I wouldn't accept his excuse for not showing up, and why I wouldn't be available to reschedule. And this got me thinking about character and keeping your promises. And what I mean by that is, character is not a topic that's often discussed these days, and it's not a sexy topic. It's not cool. These days, the cool stuff is talking about how you wanna live your life to the fullest and pursue your dreams and make it happen and see the world because you can't take money with you when you die, and live your life to the fullest because we're all gonna die someday, and so on. So character doesn't really fit in that picture, because that picture is pushing you to become a person that actually lives in the moment, that acts on impulse, that goes after instant gratification. Character is more about doing things that you don't like, putting off the immediate desires for some future outcomes. Character deals with the things that you don't want to do but know that you have to do. Character basically means doing a lot of stuff that doesn't make you feel happy, in the moment at least, but doing them because you believe that there's no other way for you to reach, for you to live a truly fulfilling life. Consumerism and this whole mindset of consumption is pretty adequate for living in the moment, because from a marketing standpoint, it's very easy to sell to a person that acts on impulse, and it's considerably harder to sell something to someone who stops and thinks about whether or not they really need that thing. We are quite children of our time in the end. But character has also some advantages that living in the moment doesn't really have. And one of those is that it makes you face the pain and endure it. So when you think about the hard stuff in life, you think about pain eventually, because doing stuff that you don't want to do, pushing yourself to do the hard things, is a sort of psychological pain, if not actually a physical pain. So should you want to avoid pain? Because people spend a great deal of their lives avoiding pain. But should you really avoid pain? And I'll give you an example. I think it was 10 years ago that I was somewhere in the mountains and I accidentally hurt my foot. And I walked for 3 months with an almost broken foot, just because I didn't want to go in the hospital and face the fact that they might break my leg and put a cast in it and have me walk around with the cast for 3 or 4 weeks maybe. And I was so adamant about avoiding that pain that I was willing to walk for 3 months with a nearly broken leg. And that was up until the moment that my leg started swelling, and it was near the point where I couldn't put on my shoes. So that was the moment when I actually went to the hospital and had it fixed. And how did they fix it? The doctor there told me that there are 2 options. The first one was the one that I foresaw actually, and it was breaking my leg and adjusting it properly, putting a cast in it on it, and having me wear the cast for 4 weeks, I think it was. The other option was to wrap my leg in a sort of semi-elastic bandage, putting some lotion on it, and walking around with the leg for 2 months. So the second option took longer, but the doctor said that it was fine. As long as I didn't want to wear the cast and I didn't want them breaking my leg, it was okay, it was an option. But I didn't know about the second option. So had I gone to the hospital since the first time that my leg hurt, I would have fixed it much sooner. Instead, I preferred to walk for 3 months with that leg that hurt. Not each time I set foot on the ground, but most of the time, instead of facing the issue. And why I'm telling you about my broken leg is because character is like that. Character is facing what you have to do, even if you think that it will hurt. I should have gone to the hospital on that first day when I got back from the mountains. Even if there wasn't a second option, even if the only option was for they to break my leg and put the cast on it, I should have done it. But I didn't do it because I was afraid of the pain. I didn't want to face the pain. I didn't want them breaking my leg. The cast was not so much an issue, but that intense, very short, I might add, pain of having your leg broken, that I didn't want to face. Character makes you face that fear, and it's sort of a higher conscience that makes you do stuff that you don't want to do, even if you know that in the long run it's good for you. So that's why character, I think, is really important, and it's not less important these days. It's not more important. It's as important as it always was, actually. And a big part of character is keeping your promises. It's making just the promises that you feel comfortable enough to actually keep, and it's sticking by the things that you promised, even if it hurts, even if it's inconvenient to you, even if it's uncomfortable. Think about people that complain about not having good enough relationships with people around them, at work, at home, with their friends, with their family, with their loved one. Do these people keep their promises or not? Are they people of character or not? Can other people say that they rely on them or not? Are they reliable or not? And if they don't keep their promises, what do you expect is going to happen? Isn't it sort of obvious that their relationships are going to be affected? Isn't it obvious that they will not be able to perform at their highest because they can't get other people to work with them? When we are talking about relationships, the most important currency that we have in relationships is trust. Breaking a promise to someone breaks that trust. And if you break that trust repeatedly, you end up losing it. And when you lose the trust of someone, that relationship is actually over. Winning the trust back takes a lot of effort, and it's not always possible. So it's better to avoid losing the trust in the first place. Okay? So the guy that I was telling you about, was very surprised that his excuse didn't work, that it didn't make me give him a pass on not showing up. And a lot of people actually do that. They actually think that excuses like, I'm sorry, I was late, there was traffic, or my alarm didn't go off, or there was a queue at some, I don't know, the post office or something. They really think that these excuses are actually valid, but they're not. Part of growing up is understanding that these excuses are not acceptable to anyone, and that those sorts of problems that you have, everybody has, and no one cares actually about these types of stuff that you have to go through. Everyone has to deal with traffic. Everyone has to deal with queues somewhere. It's not an excuse to not show up and to not keep your promises. And as a therapist, I very rarely give advice. But if you'll allow me to give you one advice, it would be this: instead of excusing yourself with these types of explanations, like my alarm didn't go off, it would be better not to say anything. It would be better to come off as inconsiderate than to come off as immature. So the next time you show up late to a meeting or don't show up at all, let go of the excuse. Just say nothing, act like it didn't happen, and next time don't be late. I wanted to talk about this because this kind of stuff really sticks with me, because people come into the therapy, come into therapy with all sorts of issues, and they almost never come in saying, "Look, it's something that I messed up. It was on me. I messed it up. It was my mistake. Tell me how to fix it." Most often, it's some other person's fault. Most often, they say that they are not understood, that other people don't care, and so on. So the reason that I wanted to tell you this is because you can't expect people to care about everything when it comes to you. You can't expect people to understand you if you don't have a good enough reason or a good enough excuse. You can't expect people to just give you a pass every time you screw up. Every once in a while, it would help for you to take responsibility and actually change the stuff that you have to change. And in order to do that, you need to pay attention to the subject of character and actually work proactively in building and maintaining your character. That's stuff that few people will tell you, but it's stuff that will help you immensely in your life and in your relationships with other people. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and see you next time. Thanks for paying attention. Bye.